do all types of shit you can't do, and this is the least impressive shit on the list.
Who is Brandon Carter?
Brandon Carter,
founder of the High Ticket Trainer,
has over 3 million fans over social media.
Legend.
It's like I'm invincible. What if you can change your brain and rewire your associations with pain and pleasure so you actually wanted to do the thing?
Something brought you to that next level.
Yeah, I'm from Chicago, the South Side, and I got a lot of trouble, fights, shootouts, normal kid shit. Discipline implies you don't want to do the thing. Discipline's for amateurs. For me, it takes discipline to not work. Like everyone knows if you fucking move more and eat less, you'll lose weight. But what makes it difficult for them to do it, they don't want it bad enough.
So why do you think people follow you?
Because it's like, my father had just committed suicide, and I was in this position where I had to take care of the whole family, and it was a real difficult situation. It was a lot of pain, and it pushed me. I remember there was a point where everyone in my family and people in my life were saying, "Man, you work too hard. You got to live a little." And I thought, man, maybe something's wrong with me.
How do you go from good to great? Because you're already at that point.
Because if you do it for the thing. I got a question on live the other day, man, if you had $2,000 to invest, what would you do? I'm like, fucking nothing. I wouldn't do is get excited about fucking $2,000 and get back to work, man. Amateurs practice till they get it right. Pros practice till they can't get it wrong.
Kicking Ass, Taking Names podcast, and today we are here with Brandon Carter, fitness legend. The word that I think comes to mind when I think of you is legend. Brandon, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I think a lot of people would echo those sentiments. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I mean, so
I
I started doing a lot more research on who is Brandon Carter. And then at first I was like, okay, he's a fitness trainer. He trains, but then also you train other people in fitness. You help them build their business. But I really look back and it reminds me of someone that I interviewed previously, is like, for example, Evan Carmichael, and he has been on YouTube for a long time.
Yeah.
People who don't know, you've been on YouTube for I looked back, your oldest videos are 10 plus years.
Over a decade.
And it's
social
crazy.
Media.
It's social media, and then you've been training. So first off, how do you feel?
About what?
Just you right now, how do you feel?
Oh, I feel fantastic, man. Thanks for having me on your show. I like your setup and everything. This is dope, man. I feel fantastic.
This guy is 41 years old. That's insane, dude. And I'm just trying to get like you, dude.
First of all, set obtainable goals, man. All right, no, I'm just fucking with you. Nah, you can do it. How old are you, man?
I'm 28.
Oh, okay, man. You youngster.
Yeah, and so I'm really curious about some things that I was researching, and I heard about your story. I guess the first way and the easiest way, I know you've told this story a million times, but who is Brandon Carter?
Like you said, I've been on YouTube for a long time, but I've been a trainer for over 25 years. I started training people when I was 16, and I'm 41 now. So I've been doing this for a long time. And I started off in the gyms training people. Then I was one of the first people to do online training back in 2008. My father had just committed suicide, and I was in this position where I had to take care of the whole family. And I just started working a bunch of jobs, labor jobs. Then I read a book called The 4-Hour Workweek. It's not like a book recommendation because it's a lot of the stuff in there is antiquated now. But it gave me the idea, man, what if I can do this online? What if I can train people online? And that was a really novel concept back in the day because nobody was doing it. And I don't want to say I invented online training, but I was definitely in that class of people who helped pioneer it initially. And, it took me a minute to figure out my way, figure out how to make it work, how to market yourself, how to make sales online, and, and then most of all, how to train people online so they get really good results. And then, through trial and error of years and years of kind of trial and error, I figured that out. And eventually I built a multi-7-figure business doing that. And now I teach other people how to start their own online fitness business, and it's super rewarding.
I mean, let's go a little bit into the backstory, right? So when you originally started training, I want to get a little bit further behind that, because the motivation behind becoming a personal trainer and then the motivation to get from personal training to the level that you've taken it to is a completely different game. And I want to know the person that you had to become to do that, and what really brought that about. So what was your mindset and why take it to this level? Because a lot of people are personal trainers, but I think a lot of people don't know what that, like, they're not getting to that point.
Yeah. I think most people, like when I see the average person walk around, like they never like, it makes me sad because the average person's never pushing themselves. They're never really trying to make the most of themselves. Like they're doing good, they're doing well, or maybe some people, but the average person has so much untapped potential and they don't know how to go and get it. You know what I'm saying? They don't know how to do it, or they're not compelled to, right? Sigmund Freud said that the only reason anyone does anything is they're trying to move towards pleasure or away from pain. For me, it was a lot of pain and it pushed me, right? It pushed me into, these endeavors every step along the way. Like even when I first started training or like working out myself, it was because I got sent away to military school. I'm from Chicago, the South Side, and I got a lot of trouble as a kid. Nothing too crazy, just like skipping school, fights, shootouts, normal kid shit. And then I got sent away to military school and I would get into a lot of fights there. So I just started working out so I can get better at violence, so I can get better at fighting people. Like some guys want to get girls or something. Now I just wanted to fight more proficiently. And then I realized once I like put on some size and I got stronger, like nobody was fucking with me no more. Nobody wanted to fight. Yeah. Predators look for prey. And that was just kind of a light bulb. And some of those kids who were assholes in military school, they started asking me for advice. And I started training them. I was kind of like fell in love with it, right? So that was, initially it was pain that drove me into that, And I didn't want to get my ass kicked anymore, right? And then it was like love, like, oh, I kind of enjoy this. And then so I was just a trainer until my father killed himself. Then I was in a position where I really had to like start going hard. I had to like figure out a way to make some real money. And it was during the economic recession of '08. Like shit was super, super bad. Like you was like a kid there. You didn't experience it as an adult, but we had record unemployment rates. There was people with master's degrees working at Starbucks because, it's super difficult during that time. And I just had to figure it out. It was pain that drove me. But with most people, they live in this like purgatory where like they don't really love where they are, but it's not bad enough for them to do anything about it, right? So it's like without some sort of driver, there's a lot of untapped potential. You know what I'm saying?
And so growing up in the South Side of Chicago, I know you talked about how you wanted to get your mother out of that situation a lot.
Well, yeah, it was really, after my father killed himself, now I'm the man of the house, I'm the man of the family. And it was a real difficult situation for all of us, as far as financially and the grief,
And then did you stay in Chicago? When did you move?
Nah, I was already gone from Chicago. So here's something you should know. Like my story is kind of weird because we grew up like super poor on the South Side. Like one of my first memories is my mom walking me to preschool. We used to wake up at like 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m. And it would still be dark out. And I was the first kid at preschool. And one time we got robbed. Like dude put the gun in my face to get, like I remember it as a kid. And then she would, that's the kind of neighborhood I grew up in, when they're robbing fucking toddlers at the break of dawn. Yeah. And my dad was there. Like he lived with us, but he was kind of gone all the time, like trying to make it happen, trying to build his business. He was an entrepreneur. And once I get sent to military school around age 16, that's when shit started to like take off for him. Like for real, shit started to take off. And by the time I graduated from high school, he was making $3 million a year. Adjusted for inflation, that's like $8 million. Right? So it was like a real, like I saw him put in work for, 18 years to finally start making some money. But then I went away to college. I went to college in DC, Howard University. And I didn't experience none of the wealth, right? Because I was going to military school, then I was going to college. And by the time I graduated, he fucked up all the money. And that's when he killed himself, So I think I forget what your question was. But the important part was I saw that it's possible. If you like really put in the work, you can like really make it happen. Because he came from nothing. Like he didn't have a high school diploma, nothing. And he did it, but he lost it. So I was like, all right, I got to start from the beginning. But I seen that he did the shit, If you work super hard for a decade or two, you can be successful. And that's what I set out to do.
Did you see it as a like a kind of like a green light? Like if I like, okay, it was over 18 years,
Yeah.
So you were used to kind of like, you got to work a long time before so if you got it faster than that, it almost seems like it was easy.
Yeah, and he didn't have the advantages I had. Or again, he didn't graduate from high school. He was an orphan. Like I ain't never met my grandparents. Like we don't even know what race he is for sure. You know what I'm saying? Because he had like curly hair and he's brown, and I don't know, we're not confident what race my dad was. We don't know shit about him. Right?
Yeah.
Like we just know him, but not his background. And he grew up, he didn't know his parents. He grew up as an orphan, fucking gang leader, didn't get no high school diploma, and was able to do it. And I was like, well, shit, I should be able to do it better, man. I was able to go to college, get an education. I grew up with both my parents, and we got the internet. He ain't even had the internet.
Yeah.
Like it didn't exist. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, man, if I can't do it, I should be at least be able to do what he did.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? With all the advantages I have.
Yeah. And I actually, I echo that same sentiment because like my father's an immigrant. He comes from a third world country, the poorest country in the world at the time when he moved to the US, and he was able to make a success of himself. So I got to see that. But at the same time, I think there's something really important with the pleasure and pain principle that you talk about that I noticed for a long time. I didn't have the same motivations because I was sitting there.
Things was fine.
I was good.
Yeah.
My life was like, I've always been good. I've been, so how do you take that? Because at some point you've, matured and built all of this, and obviously there's a lot more to the story, but you grinded. You said there was like a trigger that happened, and then your father, the situation that happened, and then something brought you to that next level.
Yeah, it was the pain. You know what I'm saying? That's what made me keep going, and then it became, how far can I push myself? And I kind of fell in love with the idea of seeing how far I can push myself. Like every day, like sometimes people see me do certain things, and they'll be like, "Oh man, you're so disciplined," and I'll be like, I don't know. It might be compulsion at this point,
I see you on lives on the bike, man. You're on the bike,
bike,
right?
Yeah.
Like that's like a constant. You're just constantly rolling. I was like, man, now I just want to be on the bike while I'm on my computer working because I'm on sitting down.
It's helpful depending on what your goals are. What I try to teach people to do is I try to help them access more of their potential. You know what I'm saying? Like really push yourself, Up until my father died, I think I was indulging in a lot of like hedonistic behavior, way more so than I should have been, looking back at it. And I think just after years of like pushing myself, I kind of fell in love with like really just seeing how much of my potential can I bring to the surface. You get what I'm saying? Like how much of and when you ask me where does this drive come from, a lot of times it's just like when people say, "Oh, you're so disciplined," and they may say something like, "Oh man, I can never do that." And I'm thinking to myself, I'll nicely be like, "Oh, it's not for everybody. It's cool," I'll say something like kind, but in my head I'm like, "Fucking course not. Can't do shit. I can't." Listen, this is I do all types of shit you can't do, and this is the least impressive shit on the list. That's what I'm thinking, but I'm a nice guy, all right? So I kind of like really think about pushing myself and trying to see how much better I can be than everyone else. That's some shit I really think about.
I mean, I think that there's nothing selfish
it's competitive.
about that. Yeah, I think it's competitive.
But like not in an asshole way.
Yeah.
It's just like when I see somebody else really pushing themselves, it inspires me. You know what I'm saying?
And so how is it like that you go from a situation where you're in a really tough spot, right?
Yeah.
And then you move to a situation where you're in a very good spot.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't take it to that level from good to great. How do you go from good to great? Because you're already at that point.
Because if you do it for the thing, you'll stop when you get the thing. Right. And I've seen this in the fitness world, when I train people, they get in shape and they're like, all right, I guess I'm done. And then, then they get fat again. Right. But there comes a point where, for me at least, and I can't speak for no one else, for me, I'm not doing it for the thing. I'm doing it to see how far I can push myself. See how, see how much of my potential I can squeeze out.
So you're like addicted to it then.
Yeah. And for sure. And if you're pushing yourself like that, you'll get all the results. But it's not like I'm trying to hit a goal, right? It's like a game, but it's not like Mario where there's like levels and then you beat the game. It's like Minecraft, right? Like the goal is to keep playing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
it's a difference, you know?
What do you think that is the toughest for most people that you talk to?
As far as what?
As far as them bringing themselves to the next level, because your whole point is, and this is what I'm trying to get to, is that everything you do is mindset. Like I've observed this, and I could tell you, like, for sure, like you're so mindset guy, man. Like I see it, and I want, like, I think people want that from you.
Okay.
So like, what do you do to get them from where they're at? How do you diagnose somebody?
When I coach people,
yeah.
Okay.
Like,
well, first, we got to really decide what they want, right? We got to really map it out. And then, you know, it's funny, man. Life is just math. Like, everything is math. And let me tell you what I mean. Like, if you want to lose some weight, right? Let's say somebody wanted to get ripped. All right. They got to burn a pound of fat, you have to burn 3,500 calories, right? So all we would have to do is like get them some sort of like fitness tracker so they can track how many calories they burn every day, get them to track their calories that they consume. And we just need to make sure they're in a 500 calorie deficit. If they do like 7 days a week, they'll lose a pound a week, right? That's 3,500 calories, right? And if they just do that for 10 weeks in a row, it's like mathematically impossible for them to fail.
Yeah.
But what I kind of realized is I don't know, it's kind of like that with everything. You know, when I'm running my business, we'll be looking at math, we're looking at charts, we're looking at conversion rates, cost of acquisition, lifetime value of customers, and it's all math. So I think people make things more complex than they need to be because they're thinking about shit besides the math, right? You know, 'cause if you do this thing, you'll get this result. Like life is pretty much cause and effect. I mean, obviously there's things outside of your control, but for the most part, it's just math. For the weight loss example, like they know that, like everyone knows if you fucking move more and eat less, you'll lose weight. But what makes it difficult for them to do it, they don't want it bad enough.
Yeah.
Or at least in that moment, the decisions people make are based off the emotions they feel at the time they make the decision. You get what I'm saying? Like, so when you're all pumped up in the beginning of the year, you make a New Year's resolution, you have a different emotion. You're in a state of motivation, and you're inspired, and you'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna decide to do this. But then, you know, later on, you'll be in a different emotional state. And when you need it the most, when you need to actually make the decision of what you're gonna eat, you know, you might make a different decision, you know? So the key is to learn how to manipulate your own state.
Yeah.
So you can make better decisions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, because people, they'll get discouraged and they'll make a decision. Okay, I might have had, this is like my 6th one today. So I might have to slow down a little bit.
No, you're good.
The decisions people make are based off the emotions they feel at the time they make the decision. Like one of my good friends, SV, man, he's doing like life in prison, right? He killed 2 people, right? But he was pissed off. He was like super angry. Had he been in a different state, he wouldn't have murdered those people, right? Or like maybe some people have sex with people that they maybe shouldn't. You know, people cheat on their wife because they're like super horny at a time. Yeah. But had they been in a different mental state, they wouldn't have made that decision, right? So what people need to do is learn how to control their state or be able to get into the state they want to every time. So one technique I use for like some of the people who I coach is I tell them to make what I call a list of hate. So like you make a list of like all the people talk shit about you, all the people said you couldn't do it, all the people, you know, maybe women who fucking cheated on you or guys who cheated on you, whatever, you know, just make it list as long as possible. And every time you don't feel like doing what you're supposed to do, right? Following the things that get you where you need to go, look at that list and you just gotta understand it, man. If when you don't work hard, the haters win, you know, right? And then that really helps people. I'm telling you, it flies a convention to a lot of the self-help shit people hear, you know, but not everybody resonates with all that touchy-feely shit. You know, sometimes we need to tap into some of the other emotions. Yeah. You know, and here's the thing. If you don't accomplish your goals, it reminds you, if you don't accomplish your goals, they wasn't hating on you. It was just a fair assessment of your capabilities. You know, they were just right. Yeah. They were just, what they said was just fucking true. Yeah. You know, but the onus is on you to prove them right or wrong.
When I was watching a few of your interviews, I noticed that you said that you talked a lot about the bullying, like growing up, kind of almost like before you were 15.
Oh yeah, right? It wasn't like major bullying because, you know, bullying is not the right word, because bullying implies that, you're just sitting around getting your ass kicked. No,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little different than that,
Because what I was gonna say is that I don't know what the word would be, but I also had that situation in my life, right? And like I took fitness, and I had a lot of anger, I had a lot of resentment when I was young.
Yeah.
And like I ended up wrestling. Okay, so
Yeah.
I started wrestling, and then I wrestled for 4 years in high school. But before I got to the point where I said enough is enough, I kind of just took.
You just took it.
Shit.
And then it's like, it gets to a point where like, fuck, you got to do something.
Yeah.
Right. That's the pleasure of pain.
I got into the point where the pain was so much. I was in ceramics class. The guy kept, throwing clay, came up behind me, choked me out. He's like, tap out, tap out. I'm like, I don't know what tap out means.
Fucking ceramics class.
Yeah, it's ceramics class.
You out here building a motherfucking bowl or a fucking.
I turn around. So check this out. I turn around. I go. I'm like, okay, you know what? Next time this guy does something, I don't care. Like I've been getting, because I went from 5'2", and I'm not that tall, but I went from like 5'1" to like 5'7", like overnight, like in 2 months. And then I started, 9th grade, and then this guy just starts like bullying me, whatever. But I don't like to use the word either.
You
but
fucked him up?
Yeah, so I looked up.
Fucked him up?
I looked up Bas Rutten, and I was like, Bas Rutten's like one of the best fighters ever.
Yeah.
And I looked up like, what should I do? Like if I get in a chokehold, and Bas Rutten's like, you go here and you turn and you do like a suplex. So I was like, all right, next time he does something, I'm gonna just suplex him. I ended up, because I was wrestling, my muscle memory kicked in. So next time he did it, I put my neck out. I threw a piece of clay at him. I put my neck out. I was like, I want him to put me in a chokehold because I'm going to turn. I turned, I grabbed him, and the floor was like this.
Yikes.
So I picked him up, and I just did a double because I couldn't grab the under the leg. So I did a double, lifted him, and slammed him hard. And I'm lucky to this day he did not get his head on the canvas. But after that, I was like, you're out for blood. You're like, nobody's ever going to do this again, and
yeah, man. He didn't, did he?
No,
of course
no,
not.
he was
predators look for prey.
He avoided me for like 2 years in the halls.
Good for him, man. He learned his lesson. Sound like he's good. That's a man who like learned.
Yeah, but like for a lot of people,
got some feedback and made adjustments.
But like, here's the thing. So for a lot of people, though, that's fitness to them. That like,
fitness.
Because for me, it was. For me, fitness became a way to. I'm not small anymore. I want to defend myself. Like I'm small. Like we'll see who's small. Like I started wrestling. I started Muay Thai. I started jiu-jitsu. I've done that stuff for years now. And it's like not an overnight thing, but over years, over time, you're like, you get to that point, you go to the people, you're like, what's up? And the people are like, oh no, man, I just want to learn from you,
Yeah. Like, I mean, or you never get in those situations, right? Because predators look for prey. I mean, as adults, we shouldn't be getting into too many situations like that. Hopefully, like hopefully our lives are. But as kids, it's a thing,
Yeah, no, and I'm just, but like my connection to what you do with it, it was like I found like the fitness was an escape. When I was upset, it was an escape. When I was frustrated, I would just punch the bag. Yeah. It became a way of therapy for me almost that wasn't effective after the first, year or two, because you start realizing you can't just use your fists and punch people. But what you can do is you can effectively learn to channel your energy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm really curious as to like, how did you get to the point where you decided, okay, you're going to go on YouTube. Okay, you're going to be a fitness trainer, but you're not just doing that. You're actually building, you had to sit there and purposely study hundreds of books or hundreds of videos or hundreds of techniques of how to grow your business to get to the point you're at.
Yeah, it was difficult, because the whole idea of an online business in like 2008, 2009 was just like a novel concept. Like, you know what I'm saying? People thought the internet was a fad. The coolest website was like MySpace, Yahoo, right? Those
People
were like
share videos of goats. Like,
it was little, it was primitive. And then YouTube came out, and I was just trying to figure it out, man. Like honestly, I was just trying things and trying to figure it out. And then it was some course I bought, and they were talking about email marketing. I was like, email. All right, that's cool, and then I got a CRM. It was Aweber, and in Aweber, in the CRM, it's not the one I use now, but it's the one I started with. There was a whole course on how to do email marketing because they want you to succeed, and it was a really good course. Like it was a super good course, and I had to learn how to build an email list from my YouTube page because they were starting to get some traction. And then I had to learn HTML at the time, right? Because ClickFunnels didn't exist, lead pages, none of that shit. So I went on somebody else's somebody else's like lead magnet, and I like stole the HTML, then put it into something called Dreamweaver, and then edited it. But like that's what we was doing back then. And so like it was way more difficult than it is now. You know, it's like there was no Instagram back then, right? It's just way easy. We had to learn all this stuff on our own. But for me, the whole thing, you know, I didn't want to be an influencer. I wanted to build a business, but becoming an influencer was the vehicle I chose. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where I think a lot of influencers have issues monetizing because, you know, a lot of, especially the young people I meet, they just want to be famous, and that's cool. Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. But I had monetary aspirations. You know?
So why do you think people follow you?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I give advice, right? I do my best to try to help people with the videos I make. Like every video I make is to help people with to help a certain person with a certain problem. And if you do that for a long enough time, over a few years, you know, you'll gather up a good fan base, right? Like I've been on the internet for 10 years. So when you think about, you know, I have 1 million YouTube followers, 1 million Instagram followers, 1 million Facebook followers and all that shit. It's not that impressive if you think about it over a decade, right? Yeah. But I think it's a testament more to consistency. And you know, and not giving up than it is to like any talent that I have. You know, if you're consistent with anything, consistency is undefeated. You know what I'm saying?
The way that you describe it really reminds me, like your mindset also is like a David Goggins. Are you a big fan of David Goggins?
Yeah, I like David. I don't know, big fan might not be a word, but I respect his work, and I read his books and stuff.
Because I would say like you, it's a very common theme is like the discipline, right?
Yeah. Okay. So listen, discipline implies you don't want to do the thing. I heard Brian Tracy say that discipline means doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, whether you feel like it or not. Mm-hmm. I had a mentor who told me. Disciplines for amateurs. What if you can change your brain and rewire your associations with pain and pleasure so you actually wanted to do the thing?
Yeah.
That can make sense? Right? That's the real shit. For me, it takes discipline to like not work.
Yeah.
Right? For me to take a day off, right? For me to like, you know, and I don't mean that to be jokes, and I don't mean that to sound like a badass or anything. It's because I've rewired my brain, my association with pain and pleasures. A lot of times people see me or to hear about my schedule or the way I live my life, and they're like, oh man, you got to live a little, you got to enjoy life, or he doesn't enjoy life. And that's because that they associate enjoying life, pleasure with hedonism, you know, like vacations, getting drunk, you know, recreational activities. And there's nothing wrong with those things within themselves, right? But if that's the only way you can enjoy life, then you can only enjoy it sparingly. Right? You know, you can only get like little hints of joy in between, you know, everything else. But if you can like learn to enjoy the grind, like actually enjoy it, one, it doesn't take discipline, and they don't understand that I'm happier than them. The people say it about me, like I'm enjoying life more than them because they can only enjoy life when they're doing hedonistic activities. I'm just as happy in front of my computer all day, like working, building the business. You get what I'm saying? But because I've changed, I've tricked my brain. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we talked about the list of hate, but you also need another list. Is I call it the list of great. Like think about like the goals you have, right? Some of the goals, things you want to accomplish. What you would do is you would like write down all the attributes that version of you like would have. Like what time you wake up, what time you go to sleep. You know, what do you do with your training? Do you skip workouts? What do you eat? Right? As many as possible. And and what happens is you look at both those lists every day, right? The list of hate and the list of great. And when you start acting in incongruence with what's on that list of great, the man who you actually need to be to accomplish your goals, you get like a little dopamine rush. You know, it starts to feel good to behave like that. And after repeated exposure, what happens is now your associations with pain and pleasure change, right? Like you used to associate pleasure with getting drunk, playing video games, you know. And I'm not trying to demonize those things, right? But you know, if they don't help you accomplish your goals, they don't help you accomplish your goals, right? And what happens is you start to associate pain with those because you know when you're doing that shit, now the haters are winning and you're not behaving like the man you need to be to hit your goals. Yeah. Right? So it actually doesn't take discipline after a while to refrain from doing these things once you've changed your associations with pain and pleasure. That makes sense? It's not discipline. Like when I wake up at fucking 4:30 in the morning, I'm pissed. I fucking hate myself a little bit if I sleep till 6 or 7. Like I actually hate myself.
Yeah.
It's like
it's like
not,
me. I don't get like the result I'm trying to get.
Yeah, that's what I'm
something.
saying. Like that's what you want though. Like the real. I'm telling you, man, the real ballers that I know, the real ballers, not the fucking guy who made a few $100,000. And I'm not trying to say that that's. I know how that sounds. I didn't mean it to sound like that. I'm talking about like guys with like multi 8-figure net worth, 9-figure net worth. Man, they fucking love the game. They love to do the shit.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They actually enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? And it takes discipline to get them to do some other shit.
Yeah.
They for them to go on vacations and all that and that they'll do that reluctantly, right? As a way to appease family members, and they'll enjoy themselves, but that's not like they're not living for the vacation. They're not living for that other shit. You know, it's really about the game,
It's like almost reminds me of that Michael Jordan documentary, right? Like he's really just after it. No matter what, you're after it. How do you get to the point where you enjoy the routine when you're doing the same thing every day though?
That's what I'm saying. That's like what I'm saying. Like you change your association with pain and pleasure. It comes at the time with repeated exposure. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And also like maybe like tracking it, like, have some sort of habit tracker or something that you can see if you're on point or not,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's repeated exposure to that list of hate, list of great. That's the only way I know how to manufacture it.
Yeah.
Or you can just or you can just wait till life puts you into a situation, right? Like I had to wait till my dad to kill himself for me to get in that zone.
So it wasn't like that before?
Nah, man. Nah, man, I was a dumbass kid getting high, fucking bitches running around smoking weed all the day. Like, like I was like every other fucking dumbass kid, It kind of snapped me into that shit.
So one of the questions I have is like, and it's really interesting because you can ask a bunch of people the question and everybody's going to have a different answer, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is it that has driven you to the point where you're at? So do you think that that's something that, without saying the same thing though, like what makes people great, right? Really?
What makes people like humans?
Yeah, like, because like my obsession right now is like getting this in my head.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes people are like, oh, you're repeating the same thing. It's like, man, maybe you need it, right?
I think when a lot of people say discipline, I really think it's just a lack of a better way to phrase it. Because I'm telling you, the people who like really reach the next levels, it would take discipline for them to stop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so if you can, I don't know how to say it without saying the same thing because that's the truth.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you can learn to love the game but not do it for the rewards. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's why on the list of great, I didn't say visualize your goal. I didn't say visualize.
So is this what you tell your clients? Like when you onboard somebody, is that part of your process is you're saying like, hey, list everything you hate.
Okay. It's part of the train. It is part of like the onboarding training. But you know what? Here's the thing. Remember I said it's just math, right? Like life is just math. So let's say you have a goal, something you want to accomplish, right? There are things you need to do to get you there, right? In a fitness context, let's just say somebody wants to lose weight. We know that they have to be in a caloric deficit every day. So that's called, there's leading indicators and lagging indicators, right? So a lagging indicator is like, it shows you what happened. A lagging indicator would be the number on the scale, right? It just shows you what happened. But a leading indicator kind of shows you what's going to happen, right? Yeah. So your caloric intake today versus your caloric expenditure, right? Those are leading indicators. So you got to figure out what the leading indicators are and track those and look at those every day as opposed to looking at the goal. Because sometimes your goal can be so big, especially if you have like a big, scary goal, right? It can almost be discouraging. Yeah. Especially if you're far away from it, it can be discouraging. But if you know what the leading indicators are, right? You just focus on that every day and just try to make today a victory.
Okay.
Right? Like go, and I didn't mean to say try, you make today a victory, right? And then if you make each day a victory, right? 7 days in a row, that week, that's a victorious week. You do that for a month, it's a victorious month. You do that for fucking 12 months, now your fucking whole year's victorious. And you do that for, a few years in a row, your whole life changes. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So you focus on like what's right in front of you. Does that make sense? Like the leading indicators, and then the goals take care of themselves, right? if I look at somebody's leading indicators with fitness, right? It'll be like, all right, how many calories you burned today? How many calories did you consume? How much protein did you get? Right? And if it's all, and if they're hitting those numbers, the numbers we set for them every day, I don't have to look at the scale. I know what's going to happen, right? It's just math, right? It's the same thing with your goals, whatever they are.
What about when you see somebody who has the emotional attachment to weight, I mean, you've had to work through that a lot. You probably run into people who ask about that a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's more. It's even more important that we focus on the leading indicators with them, because they're going to get discouraged with the weight if we focus on like the weight.
Yeah.
Right. We got to focus on every day, making every day a victory.
Yeah. What are some of the most common questions you get asked then?
About what?
When you're training people and when you're building, so now you build businesses.
Yeah.
Previously you trained people, but do you not, you must have like a recurring question, like questions that everybody asks. Cause I would like think about it and I'd have maybe an idea of some questions, but what are some of the most commonly asked questions in general you have?
Most people's questions kind of suck, man. It's like they really discourage me. They're so vague that it's difficult for me to give them a response that will be of value. You know, people ask like bullshit questions. Man, how do I get a six pack? How do I get rich? How do what's the quickest way to make $10,000? Or what? I got a question on live the other day, man. It was so fucking, it's frustrating. It's like, man, if you had $2,000 to invest, what would you do? I'm like, fucking nothing, man. Fucking nothing. Yeah. Right? Like, fucking, there ain't no real. What I wouldn't do is get excited about fucking $2,000. You get back to work, man. You need to stack up some real bread. So like most people's questions kind of suck, man. You know?
Yeah. You're talking about conditioning of the mind.
Yeah.
How do you condition your mind in the situation in which the outside world wants you to be a certain person, but you want to be a different person?
There's been times when I've dealt with that a lot. I remember when I was really going hard, you know. I mean, I'm always going hard, but I remember there was a point where everyone in my family and, you know, people in my life would say, man, you work too hard. You got to live a little, you know, and all that other shit. And I thought, man, maybe something's wrong with me. Like maybe they're right. Cause like I was hearing it from everyone. Right. And then I read a book called Relentless by the homie Tim Grover. And it had a real impact on me, man. You know, Tim Grover trained Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade. And his book wasn't about like how to train. It was about the mindset of like these like legit champions, right? Yeah. And they were all kind of obsessive or compulsive about victory, you know? And I thought, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. This is what's required for me to be successful. Yeah. Right. And that gave me permission to take my foot off the brake and you know, all the way on the gas. And I was like, man, fuck what these people talking about. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you know, like, fuck it. And I tattooed Relentless on my arm. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, but you're going to have challenges as far as that's concerned. Right. You know, especially, you know, with spouses. One of my clients, this chick named Maddie Coughlin, she's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right? She joined my program and she was just a stay-at-home mom, but she like lost a lot of weight and she wanted to like train people, you know, give people that same feeling. She fell in love with fitness after she lost a bunch of weight. And, you know, she joined my program, high ticket trainer, and we were working with her and she started making like $20,000 a month, right? $20,000 a month. But her husband was like, yo, you don't spend no time with me, you know, like it's rare to hear it like on that side. Opposite, right? Yeah. But you know, I talked to Maddie. I was like, well, do you spend time with him? And she was like, nah. I mean, I'm just focused on this shit, man. You know, I'm like, yeah, I feel you. What I told her to do, and this is what I tell all my clients is, you got to plan your whole life out in your calendar. Yeah. Right. And you got to carve out time for your spouse, like carve out time for your kids. What I told Maddie was to like, all right, think about how much time you need to spend with your husband per week, right? For y'all to have a happy, successful marriage and relationship, and then put that time in your calendar. Yeah. Like really fucking plan it, because right now you're going to try to get around to it, but you shouldn't get around to shit that's important. Yeah. Shit that's important needs to be prioritized. Yeah. Right. So if that's important, then do it. You know. So for example, like I put everything in my calendar. Right. Let me show you my shit. Like I'm not fucking around. Like I can look at your calendar and I can tell your fucking future. Right. it's like, this is my shit. Looks like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, it's not, I'm not fucking around. I know exactly how much time I'll spend with my girl. I know exactly how much time I'm gonna spend with my son. I know right? And because I prioritize it. The shit is important. Sometimes people like to make fun of me when I say that. They're like, oh, it's 9:00, son. Gotta go. No, kids got fucking bedtime school, after school programs, fucking karate. Kids got shit to do, right? You know, but I make sure that I prioritize him and I get around to everything else, right? If it's in my calendar, it's a priority. Like this podcast interview is in my calendar. And then the next thing I got to do after that is in my calendar because it's a priority. I get around to Call of Duty. You know what I'm saying? Like I get around to going to a Heat game or some shit. You know what I'm saying? And then if it's a vacation, you know, if I can plan it out in a way where it makes sense, and for, you know, because my girl, you know, chicks like going on vacations and shit. I'll do it and I'll plan it out if it's appropriate, right? Like you also got to make sure your spouse is on the right page, which is on the same page with you. Right. She's got to he or she got to understand that you got what kind of mission you're on. And if they trying to get away from that, man, if you know what I'm saying, hey man, fuck that hoe.
I think we just open up a whole new conversation, and just that alone is like with the spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend entering into your business, right? Like not being or entering into the space in which you're operating your business, and you're having to say, hey, I'm starting this thing. It's a commitment. It's like having a kid, right? Like,
I mean, listen, scheduling time for your spouse mitigates a lot of this, right? Especially if you're just with her while you're doing it, right? And it's a nice amount of time, right? It mitigates that, right? So when I'm with my girl, I'm with my girl. I'm not on Slack. I'm not doing other shit. But when I'm working, I'm not with her. You know what I'm saying? So it's like really, and when I'm with my son, it's just him. I'm not fucking thinking about nothing else, you know? And not only do you get more time with the person by scheduling it, but it's like focus time.
Being intentional.
Because a lot of times people are with their spouse and they're doing other shit. So like they're with them, but they're not with them. A lot of times people will be with their kids. Like I spent a lot of time with my dad when I was little. We was broke, right? So my mom was working on the weekends and I would go to him and he worked on the weekends too. So I'd be with him at his office, right? But he's not with me, right? He's doing other shit. I got G.I. Joes on the floor of the office or some shit. That wasn't quality time. We just started getting quality time till he started making some money and I was older, you know? And plus, you know, what the fuck he's gonna do baby shit? He didn't probably want to do baby shit with me, right? He wanted to do man shit. And then, but it's like scheduling the time with your spouse or your kids or your family, you know, that mitigates a lot of it. But if they still think it's unreasonable, right? If the time you can allot to them is not enough for them, then maybe they'd be happy with someone else, right? There's a lot of girls who like would really actually be happier with a guy who just worked, you know, 30, 40 hours a week. Honestly. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone has different goals, aspirations, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But they, you know, that might just be a compatibility issue. And I think you should, if you recognize that early, then you should free her up to go be middle class with someone else.
I saw in an interview that you said that a girl left her boyfriend for a guy who made more money. And you said it was a good thing because if he doesn't have the lifestyle that can provide what she wanted, then you know, she's better off. And you said good for her.
Yeah. Well, you know, listen, everybody has their fucking, I'm not here to demonize other people, what people want. You get what I'm saying? Like, who am I to judge? Like, I'm not in a position to judge anybody on anything, you know? So if she decides that she wants something else that this guy's can't provide or won't ever provide, and she recognizes with that, right? I think she does him a disservice by staying with him, right? They would both be happier with someone else, and they need to free each other up to go do that, right? If she wants a guy who's like super rich, then she should go pursue that, right? Otherwise, because if she stays with him, then she's settling for him. You get what I'm saying? And and that's going to breed resentment, you know? Like you should be excited to be with your spouse. And if you ain't got that, then, you know, I think y'all both should like free each other up to go do something else. And he's not going to be happy with her. A girl who like really wants something different. Or she's trying to push him to do more stuff. Man, he just wants to chill and be a regular guy doing regular shit. And he needs to find a girl who would, there's a lot of girls who would be excited about that, you know? I'm honestly, you know, so I think she made the right decision.
So then when you were on your journey to the top and just building your way and building your name and all the things, like what were the things you were looking for in like a partner?
In a partner?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't think I was looking for anything. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I was never like looking for a partner. I think, I got a girlfriend now, but it's like it just kind of clicked. But I wasn't out looking for a partner.
Did you find, like, how did you guys get together then?
Oh, we were friends for a long time. And then we were both single at the same time. And it just went, we were like friends for like 2 years.
Yeah.
We were both single at the same time. And then, it just kind of worked out that way.
So then how about you being in the position you're in as a father?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, she's not my son's mom.
And so, so like, how is it that your business has affected your relationship with your son? And how do you think that has played a role or factor in your son's life?
Oh, it's made it way better. He goes to the fucking best schools, man, best private schools. I'm able to, he lives in Georgia and I fly there multiple times a month to be with him, I was just down there for a week with them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I couldn't do that shit if I was working some regular ass job. I wouldn't have the means to be out there and do it. We all lived in New York, but his mom moved to Georgia. She wanted to be closer to her family. And I thought that was a good thing for him because she's got family down there. And I thought it would be good for him. Whereas like, I'm not really close with my family because, my dad and all the other shit. So it's like, I thought it'd be better for him to grow up in that environment, but I didn't want to live in Georgia. So that's when I moved here, which was closer, Miami. But I'm there like all the time, like really every other week.
So you guys are almost like long distance relationship?
Me and my son, I mean, I guess you could say that, but I'm there every other week.
Also your girlfriend.
My girlfriend lives in Miami.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think I just missed the whole
connection. It's all good. It's all cool. So I'm in Georgia all the time with my son.
Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes weeks at a time, but I couldn't do that if I didn't have a business. And I definitely couldn't afford to send him to, the school he's about to start. It's like 25 grand a year for second grade.
Oh,
right. It's one of the best schools in Georgia.
Yeah.
One of the best private schools in Georgia. And I'd like to believe that that's putting him in a position where he's, all I can do is give him the best of everything I can find and hope that he turns out, and makes some of it. I can't give him the ambition, but he already got it,
How do you feel that then your situation with you and your father affected your life with you and your son?
I think my son helped me get over like the grief and shit, like on Father's Day, I think about being a father instead of the father I don't have. Right. You know what I'm saying? I think of, and also he helps me think more long-term, because I think about him and like where he's going to be. So now, some of the decisions I make, I'm a little more risk averse, but not in a bad way. Like I'm not scary, shit like that. It's just, I'm thinking more long-term and it's like, okay, how's this going to affect him? In a good way, Yeah.
So I noticed one thing: you track everything.
Yeah.
And that actually, I see it on your stories. I see it every day.
Yeah.
You track like this metric, and I'm starting to think you're an engineer, man, because everything you do, you've engineered your life.
Yeah, it's lifestyle engineering.
And it is. So like, what's the deal with like tracking everything? Because some people have this argument in fitness, and I've noticed this. They said, "Oh, it's way harder to track all the calories and everything you do than it is to just follow like a certain type of diet." You're the keto guy,
right? I do keto. I do keto.
And so, what's the point of the keto versus the tracking of?
They're not mutually exclusive.
Okay.
You still have to be in a caloric deficit if you want to lose weight. You know what I'm saying? Still calories in, calories out. Like the laws of thermodynamics still apply no matter what diet protocol you're following, right? So it's just, how do you want to get the calories? That's why I do keto. For me, let me tell you something. I'll show you something. So I keep this scale on me. I keep a scale on me all the time.
Is that a full, you could put your whole weight?
Yeah, man.
Would you put 1 foot on it?
No. It's not for weighing humans. This is weighing dead animals.
Food. Oh, got it.
This is a food.
Got it. I don't know.
It's all good.
That connection right there.
Yeah, man. I balance on that shit with one hand. Nah, I break that shit, man. Nah. So I weigh, that's the way my food.
What do you weigh, by the way?
I weigh like 205 right now, 6'2".
You're a UFC fighter, bro.
Ah, man.
You train at all?
Nah, man. Every white guy I know started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu
Yeah.
5 years ago, man. Look, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is like basketball for white guys. You know? Instead of playing basketball together, they fucking.
So then you just stop fighting altogether. You're like, screw it.
Listen, man. I'm 41, man. If I get into a problem, I can't de-escalate. I ain't gonna wrestle with you. You know like, but I'm from Chicago,
higher
man.
security.
I'm from Chicago. It's gonna get a little. It's
sticky.
that's not our preferred self-defense.
I don't think you would put yourself in that situation.
Nah.
You got too much street smarts already ingrained in you.
That shit, I ain't worried about that shit. But you know, niggas might see the fucking watch and think, oh man, I want me a richer meal, and they might get out of hand, and then, you know.
Does that happen to you ever?
Nah. I mean, but if it did,
you
know
hear
what I'm
about
saying?
these like Instagram celebrities, etc., getting robbed. Like, you ever had to worry about that?
Nah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm Superman or no shit like that. You know,
you're
I'm not out here daring motherfuckers to do it either. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't out here testing it. I ain't rolling around the fucking projects with the shit on. You know. But anyway, to the point, I keep the scale on me to track everything because, you know, I started doing that like a long time ago, like tracking my calories in, calories out, and be meticulous about hitting my macros every day. And when you do that for like a decade, like, you start to get results that people would think is impossible.
Yeah.
People always said I was on steroids. People would make videos about it. I'm on testosterone replacement now, but I'm old, right? I'm 41. I started that when I was in my, I was almost 40 when I started that shit. But before that, people thought I was on steroids. It's like, nah, man, I actually I keep a scale in my fucking bag everywhere I go. Any day the last fucking 15 years, I tell you exactly what I ate, how many calories I had. And nobody would do that shit. It's extreme.
Yeah.
But extreme actions give you extreme results. Right. So the people who say they don't want to track everything, they don't want to be the best they can be. Right. They want to do good. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's totally cool. And whatever works. But there's a difference between doing something and doing something the best you can do it. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's not everyone's priority. Right. I have a financial incentive to stay in the best shape possible as well, right? So like, that's an advantage for me. I'm financially incentivized to stay in the best shape possible. But people who don't do that, they're just not as serious. And I don't mean it's a bad thing, it's right. There's some shit I'm not as serious about either, right? That they may be more serious about. It's just depending on where your priorities are, and that's one of mine. But anything I'm super serious about, I track. I figure out what the metrics are, what the lead indicators are, and I track those meticulously to get the results. And if you do that for years, like, you'll get results that people will believe. It'll be difficult for them to comprehend, right? Because no one does this, right? I've only met a few people who do this, but they're all in amazing shape, amazing shape, right? Yeah. And it's the same thing with business. Like, if you see the amount of data we collect and the things we track, especially for my sales team, I was showing this one guy. I ain't gonna say his name, but I was showing him the results from my sales team, right? And I was showing him all the metrics we track with sales, you know? Like, we track more than most people I know, right? And we're always trying to improve each metric. And you just start doing that for a long time, you get great results. And I was showing him our close rate. He's like, nah, man, I don't believe that shit. I don't believe, like, he got mad. And I was like, well, do you track all the shit we track? And he's like, no. I was like, hey, shut the fuck up, white boy. You should have been, you should just thank me for giving you the game, you know? But I think his ego got in the way of that.
You are online, you're selling fitness, but you're also open about your steroid use, right? And you said, you know, testosterone replacement therapy,
yeah.
Which would be, some would consider as steroids.
Yeah, I mean, it's testosterone. Yeah, I inject it twice a week. Yeah.
And so with that, do you, and like, you know, I mean this like in a very ethical, like, I don't want to be, you know, rude, but I'm saying, do you find any ethical issue with, you know, selling the program, or do you think because
I don't sell fitness programs?
Yeah,
I don't sell fitness programs. I teach trainers how to build their own business now. But it's like, if you're a man in your 40s, you know, testosterone starts dropping at age 30, right? And if you're a man in your 40s, I think it's the reason I was open about it is because I didn't. My friend owns a clinic in Tampa, and he was telling me that, like, guys are like ashamed of it. You know, they're like fucking they have their shit mailed to the office so their girlfriends or wives don't know they're on it. Like they feel weird. I was like, oh man, that stigma. Like, yo, if you feel like you need that shit in your 40s, then I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. You know, I think every man who's in their 40s should at least be getting their testosterone checked and make sure that if you can optimize it.
So what were your testosterone levels then like before you got it?
All right, I remember that my brother had got on it when he was in his 50s, right? And he was telling me how much better he felt. So I went and just got mine tested, and I might have been early 30s. And I remember at that time my shit was like 900. You know what I'm saying? Like 900.
Well, what was the free test? Because that's the one that
I don't
really
remember
mattered.
all that shit, man. And then this fucking decade ago, right? But it was like 900, and I was like, all right, I guess I don't need this shit right now, right? But then, like when I was 38, 39, I went and checked, and it was more like 400.
Oh, okay.
You know, and I was feeling like kind of tired. That was the main issue I was having, was I was a little tired. And then I thought maybe it's because I've been on keto for so long, right? Because I've read studies that keto can drop your testosterone. I've also read studies that it can raise it. Like both those studies exist, right? Yeah. And so I started eating carbs, trying to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And
but you said the carbs don't make you feel good.
Well,
right?
carbs made me feel even worse.
Yeah.
Than then. So I was like, all right, so it's not that, you know, and it makes sense, right? Because most guys who are on testosterone, almost nobody does keto statistically. Yeah. I went and got it, and I just went to the doctor, and they said, yeah, man, we can give you this shit. You know, you going to have to be on it forever. And I was like, all right, there's a lot of shit I do forever. You know, like I'm eat, breathe, flex on the haters, stun on the hoes. I'm gonna do all that shit forever. So this is just another one.
So what is keto then? Because a lot of people, like what I'm thinking keto is like eggs, fish, fruit, nuts.
I don't like to think of it like that. I don't like to think about it as certain food items. I don't like to think about it as even a macronutrient ratio. I like to think about it as, are you in ketosis? Right? If what you're eating allows your body to be in a ketogenic state, then you're doing a ketogenic diet. Because I get way more protein than what's prescribed normally on a ketogenic diet, but because I'm tracking shit. I test the first year I did keto, I tested my ketone levels in the morning and the night, like every day, right? And I just noticed that I can take my protein up like super high and still stay in ketosis. I don't know why, but I can, right? And everyone's different. Some people die if they eat a peanut, right? Everyone's different. And so as long as you're in a ketogenic state, then you are doing the ketogenic diet. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not necessarily macronutrient ratio. It's not necessarily the food items. You know, I seen I know vegans who did keto. You know what I'm saying? They just, but you got to keep your carbs low. Typically, if your net carbs are under 50, typically most people will enter ketosis. And ketosis is when you're eating a traditional Western diet, you're eating carbohydrates and your body's converting those carbohydrates into glucose. And that's the fuel you run on. But in the absence of carbs, your liver will produce ketones, right? And that'll be the new fuel you run off of, right? So it'll turn fat into ketones, and those ketones will be energy, right? Either fat you ingest or fat or body fat. And then when I started doing that, I started feeling like way better.
So then what was like the diet before then?
For me, man, I was just trying to get protein, a gram of protein per pound of body weight. And I didn't really care what was happening with the carbs and the fat outside of that. And I was in great shape like that. So you can get in shape with any diet, you know, as long as your protein and your calories are right. But what happened was I went and got a routine checkup. They said my cholesterol was high. And it's a genetic predisposition. I have like a lot of family members who have high cholesterol and they're on statin drugs. And I didn't want to get on that shit because I knew they had a lot of side effects. But because I had been a certified trainer and nutritionist for so long, I knew that there were some studies that showed that some people, not everyone, some people's cholesterol normalizes when they go keto. So I said, let me try this instead of these fucking drugs. And when I did it for a month, and then I went back and they tested my cholesterol and I said, oh man, this shit is fine now. Did you take the drugs? I was like, nah. I just changed my diet. And it was like, keep doing what you're doing. But I also noticed that I felt better and I had more energy. My skin was clear. And I've been doing that shit for like 8 years now. Right. You know, people say I look younger, like you said it earlier. I mean, I think that has a lot to do with diet. Studies in animal models, studies show that keto animals live longer. It slows the aging process. We don't have a lot of human trials on that, but they live longer, healthier lives. It's proven to be safe and effective. It was invented for children in 1920, kids who had epilepsy.
Really?
Yeah, because it cured the epilepsy without drugs, because the drugs were pretty harsh on like kids back in the day. And presumably those kids got ripped too. You know what I'm saying? But it's not magic. People think if they just stop eating carbs, they'll lose weight. It doesn't really work like that. It's your calories still have to work. So I don't really do keto for body composition reasons.
Yeah.
Me, it's like I like the energy. I think clearer, and the studies that show that it improves the immune system. So I haven't been sick in like it's going on 7 years. I haven't even had a cold.
Yeah.
Like my girlfriend had fucking COVID 3 times. I'm eating shit off her plate. You know what I'm saying? I'm sleeping in the same bed with her, having unprotected sex. I ain't get this shit once. Kissing her in the mouth, I ain't give a fuck. And I ain't get that shit once.
Yeah.
It's like I'm invincible. Walking around New York, walking around Manhattan, in the middle of that shit, like I am legend.
Yeah.
No
Even
mask,
when it gets
I don't give a
cold in
fuck.
your immune system.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Cold, what nationality are you?
I'm mixed. I'm Puerto Rican, Salvadoran, Spanish, Bengali.
Yeah. Latinos, man, y'all really believe that cold makes you cold. That cold makes you sick.
I have tea here. I have
It doesn't
here.
work like that. Like, temperature doesn't make you sick, man. It's like temperature, but that's a. I know that's a cultural thing.
Yeah,
I've had sex with a lot of your women, and it's a cultural thing. Like they all believe that the temperature makes you cold, man. But the truth is, if you get cold, it's from viruses or bacteria. That's the only way you can actually get sick. If temperature made you cold, then every time I did cryotherapy, I'd get sick. Or every motherfucker jumping in a cold plunge.
Well,
would
yeah,
get
like
sick
Wim
after.
Hof, the cold plunge, that whole thing
Yeah,
started
it
taking
just doesn't
off.
work. Like the reason people get more sick in the winter is because a few reasons. One, we're indoors more, so we're spreading around viruses and bacteria more, and you get less vitamin D, especially people of color.
Yeah,
like if we don't, our skin was made to be outside all day by the equator, but if we're in these cold climates, we're not even indigenous to these climates, right? And then we're covered up, right? So you don't get
I'm
as
from
much.
Seattle, so that's
Man, you don't get as much vitamin D from the sun, right? So lack of vitamin D will lower your immune system. Vitamin D deficiency for sure.
So what about the workout plan, man?
What's up,
what
man?
do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah.
Listen, what I do is not going to be applicable for anyone else. I'm super hesitant to share my workout program because what I do is different than what anyone could do, what most people should do, because I've been training for fucking.
Well, what is it? I want to know. I can do it. I'll do it. Let's go.
All right, man. Well, I work out full body workouts every day, unless like life makes me.
Yeah.
Take a day off, right? I pick 1 or 2 exercises per body part, and
I love every day. I do everything every day too.
Mostly compound movements. And then what I also do is I split my workout. Instead of working out for an hour, I split it up into either 2 30-minute sessions or 3 20-minute sessions. But I can do that because I have a gym in my building, right? Or maybe I'll go to the gym. There's a few gyms in walking distance from my crib. If you got to commute to the gym, that's probably not going to be a viable strategy. But I like to do that because, if you go hard for an hour, you might be tired.
Yeah.
It would be difficult to fucking go after your goals or some shit. Do something else if you really leave it all on the field.
Yeah.
In 60 minutes in a row.
I've been training for this interview. I want her to look bigger. I want her to look bigger next to you, man.
Yeah. So I'll break it up into 2 or 3 sessions.
Yeah.
The full body workouts.
I've been training up for this so I could and I feel if it also the one thing I am curious because I started getting tired when I train like as I'm cutting.
Yeah.
And then I started getting tired. I'm like, do I need to get like a more strict keto type of diet, or maybe I'm not getting enough calories, or
I don't know how many calories you eat a day.
I don't track.
You don't track? Oh man.
So there's already the problem.
You will never be like me. Like if you're not tracking, you slack it. I mean, like you can get in great shape, but like on some elite shit, it's difficult. You'll never do you got to do what successful people are doing.
Yeah.
Like if somebody succeeded in something, you got to try to mimic what they're doing, what they did to get there, right?
When did you stop doing the personal training then?
I never really stopped. So I still have some online clients, a few, but I charge like a retarded amount, and it's like the people who they got to beg me They got to beg me and then pay an exorbitant amount. But you know, some people do it, like you know, rich guys, entrepreneurs, and I'll train them. So it never really stopped, and it's cool. You know, I'm still in it. You know, it was for the right. Listen, everything's for sale, man. For the right amount of money, for the right amount of money, man. You'd punch a baby. You know, everything's for sale.
So
would you punch a baby for $10 billion?
Is the baby ugly?
Nah, the baby's beautiful.
Oh man, that's tough.
$10 billion. Think about
how hard you gotta punch it,
huh?
How hard you gotta punch?
It's got to be a decent punch.
I mean, that'll kill the baby though.
All right, not a lethal strike.
Oh gosh.
I'm just asking. I just want to know where your head is at.
I don't know, man.
You don't know, so you got to think about
not. But
$10 billion,
bro,
think
that's
about
punching a baby though. It'll hurt that baby forever.
It would.
If it messes up a baby forever, no. If it's like something the baby could heal, like no, like for real, like not permanent damage, like like for 10 billion, possibly.
Y'all should edit that out.
We might keep it as a blooper reel or something.
That's fucked up because I wouldn't, man. I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. Whoa.
Yeah, it's fucked up you said that because I would never do that.
Whoa. You said if it was 10 billion, you were trying to make me say yes.
I just wanted to know what kind of human I was talking to.
He's good at manipulation.
I just wanted to know what kind of monster you are.
First. I was saying no, and then you said not even. So he wants me to say yes.
All I gotta do is ask a few follow-up questions to get you to assault an infant.
That's a trap, though. That's a trap door. That's a trap door. He's got the influencer thing on me. I'm like, he's my guest. So I'm trying to.
Man, imagine what Bradley Martin can get him to do. If I can ask two questions and he'll punch a child.
No. We should put this. Hey, we should put this as
Logan Paul have him assassinating people.
What I like to do always in every show is to give your best advice for people. Right.
Yeah.
So like, what is it that you particularly could give them advice on that you think you could give better advice than most other people, and it's something that is applicable and they can use in their life?
When you set your goals and you make your plans to achieve them, most people do it wrong. So imagine, like, let's say there was a bug in here, right? Like a bug, and you could try to like stomp on it or throw a fly swatter it or a chancleta at it. But you might miss. You might not kill it, right? But you tried. And then you can actually say, hey, I tried to do it, right? But what if you went after your goal in a way where it was impossible for you to fail, right? What if you were impossible to fail? What we do, man, we bomb the building or maybe we fumigate the building, call it exterminator, right? Something extreme, right? But you would definitely if you called an exterminator and it fumigated the building, you definitely get the bug. You won't have to worry about them no more, right? That's how I would like people to start approaching their goals. Like instead of saying, what do I need to do to try to accomplish this goal? Say, what effort would I have to put in that would make it impossible to fail? You know what I'm saying? Because if you do that, that's a whole different way of looking at it. You know what I'm saying? Like I learned it, I play a lot of instruments. I played since I was a kid, drums, guitar, keyboard. And I remember I was practicing with a guitar teacher for this performance. And he was like, oh, you got it, Brandon, you got it. But it was like the first time I got it and I was all excited. He said, I don't get excited now, man. Just like, he said, amateurs practice till they get it right. Pros practice till they can't get it wrong, right? So that was like, it kind of changed my mindset. I was like, damn, what if we approach everything like that? Like do it so you can't fail. What would that look like? And then you soon realize that you can't have like 30, 40 goals, right? When you start looking at it like that. So you pick the very few things that you want to exceed at. Everything else is extra, and really make it like impossible to fail. Because most people, they just try. They just try. I try to do this. I try to do that. I call them try babies. I don't even like people saying try around me, because if you trying, then it's like, man, you almost putting in. It's almost like you waving the white flag. Oh, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to lose weight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? No. I'm gonna lose weight or die trying. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, think about it. It's like, who would you bet on? Yeah. Right. You gotta. If you start approaching shit with that kind of intensity, it really becomes difficult to fail. It's difficult to beat a person like that. In in things that aren't like, finite, right? Like, there's only one team is going to win the NBA championship, obviously, no matter how hard you work. But, most of the things we're trying to accomplish aren't like that, right? It's like, you can make $100,000 this year, and that's not stopping no one else from doing it, right? So with those kind of goals, right? Things that only have to do with you.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like, what kind of effort would it take to make it impossible to fail? That's why it's like, for me, just as an example, fitness is the easiest one. For me, I just know if I hit my calories and my macros, it'd be impossible, literally mathematically impossible for me to fail.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I just make sure I do that every day. When you approach things like that, it simplifies, it just simplifies life for you, man. But you can't have a bunch of shit. So everything else got to be extra, right? I gotta make a certain amount of money. And instead of saying, I want to make, maybe for the viewer, I want to make $10,000. Man, I'm gonna try to make $10,000 a month this year. No, I'm gonna make $10,000 a month this year or die trying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm going to do it, And then what would it take for you to do that? What kind of actions would you have to take? You can't just say it. Like, what kind of actions would I have to take that would make failure impossible? And if you start going after it like that, man, there's very few things you can accomplish, Very few things you can't accomplish with that kind of resolve.
All right, so we had Brandon Carter here on Kicking Ass, Taking Names. I appreciate you so much for your time.
No problem,
and
man.
We gotta take a little comparison pick. I gotta see where I gotta go, where I'm headed to next.
All right, let's go.